Hello everyone. Welcome to Disaster Risk Management Measures video lecture. I am Harhit Dixit, Assistant Professor, Mechanical Department, MITS College. Before going into the details of the disaster risk management measures, we need to first understand some common definitions which are associated with disaster risk management measures. Let's start with it. The first definition is hazard. Hazard is a situation or a phenomena that has a potential to cause a harm. A hazard does not affect the humans and their lives. Means any situation like a wind is blowing, but if the wind is blowing and it is not causing any harm, then it will not be considered under the hazard situation. But if a wind is blowing at such a speed that it is creating an harmful effect on the humans and everything, that will be called as the hazard. Next definition is disaster. A disaster is a sudden event which causes damage to human lives and functioning of their community or society. It can be natural or man-made. So any hazard which has the potential to bring the harm to the human life or to the property or anything, that will be considered as the disaster. Vulnerability. Vulnerability is related to the amount of probability of exposure to a hazardous event. In order to understand this, suppose a cyclone is coming, then the people residing the coastal areas will be more affected by the cyclone than the people residing in the land areas in the northern regions. So we will say that the people near the coastal region are more vulnerable as compared to the people residing in the north region. Next is susceptibility. Susceptibility implies an aspect of repetition over time and falling victims to condition. Now, suppose taking the same situation of cyclone, the coastal areas like Kerala and we are taking the example of Kerala and we can take the examples of Andhra Pradesh. Then the cyclone will affect both the places, but the people will be more susceptible. People of Kerala will be more susceptible as compared to the people of Andhra Pradesh. Both will affect will face the same cyclone, but the people of Kerala will be more affected. So we will say that people of Kerala are more susceptible to cyclone as compared to the people of Andhra Pradesh. Moving on to the next. So in order to do the methods for the measure for preventing the disaster, we have classified the entire process into four phases. The four phases are included in such a manner that first two are considered before the event and other two are considered after the event. So when coming to the before the event, we have two methods which is depicted by the green arrow. First is mitigation method, second is the preparation method, and the third phase which are response and fourth is recovery. The third and the fourth are after event measures. First, we will go for mitigation. Mitigation is the effort to reduce loss of life and property by lessening the impact of disaster. Mitigation is taking action now and before the next disaster to reduce human and financial consequences later. So what does the mitigations means? Mitigations, by definition, it means to reduce something. So taking the measures to reduce the coming event, to reduce the coming disaster event, will come under the mitigation methods. Now, for that, we can take the help of the past experiences, the records that have we have got, and all those things are to be collaborated and the measures to be taken so that the if the event is occurring, then the harm can be reduced. Now, taking the example of the flood, let's take the flood example of the floods. So in order to prevent the damages caused by the floods, what we can do, we can create the homes away from the flood plains. Now you can see this picture over there. Here the river is flowing from the middle of the city. So if the homes are made nearby this river, then if the flood comes, then these areas will be more affected. So what we can do, so if you can see, if we create the residential areas nearby, then the floods will occur more damage this way. So this will occur the more damage. So instead of creating the residential over near the river side, we can create the residential area far away from the river side, so that the damages cost will be reduced. And for this, the study of topology and the flood plains and all is very very important. Next measures that we can prevent for the for used for the preventing the floods are creating the elevation, raising, that means the buildings are created at an elevated height, so that the flood, if comes, the water flows down the plains, and the major building can be prevented. The second method is creating flood walls. If the if the flood wall is created near the homes, then the water will be not be entering into the homes. And thirdly is dry flood proofing. Dry flood proofing means creating the walls of the home with such a materials which can either absorb the material or which can repel the material. For example, we can see that in our bathrooms we use the tiles where the water is frequently used, but the tiles are water resistant, so it does prevents the major wall, and the water does not get absorbed into the wall. So like this we can prevent the damages caused by the floods. This is the example. We can see how the elevated buildings can be made, and this is the another example for creating the walls and other things. Next example that we can take is earthquake. Now when an earthquake comes, a lot of destruction takes place. So in order to prevent the destruction that are taking place, we can use the following methods. First is pre-event measures, means pursuing uh, prediction method. In this comes the usage of seismic meters and other sophisticated device by which we can recognize what is the strength of the earthquake and when it is going to come. Establishing building codes, earthquake proof constructions, means buildings are to be made according to a certain codes which are being governed by the and authorized by the government, so that the destruction cost is the less. The second is during event measures. For this, the education and trainings are required for the children and the common people before the event occurs. Schools and colleges must promote these educations so that the people can save themselves during the earthquake. For example, if an comes, then the people should hide below a solid table or something, so that they can save their life. Then the third is post-event measures, means after the event has occurred, what are the methods that can be used for rescuing, means bringing the ambulances, cranes, and other sophisticated devices which can be used to prevent the lives. Then the timely rehabilitation. After that, after the event has occurred, it takes some time, but sooner, rehabilitation process should be um, continued as soon as possible. Next, in the earthquake damage mitigation methods, we can create the bridges which can prevent the earthquakes. Here you can see a bridge. For creating for creating such a bridge, we don't use a monolithic design. Monolithic design means formed of a single piece of stones. These bridges are made of columns containing limb inspired joints and segments. In the event of an earthquake, the joint allows some of the energy from the ground motion to spread, while the segment moves slightly, sliding over one another rather than bending or cracking. If a if a if a, this column if this column is made of a single piece and an earthquake comes, then this column will have a tendency to bend. Now this bending will cause more damage. In order to prevent this bending, what we can do, instead of making it from a single piece, we can use four small uh, four columns combined together to form a single column. Now you can see this is the top view. This is the top view how the columns are connected. Now, whenever these are the here the electronic circuits are are implanted, which detects the earthquake. As the earthquake comes, these are detected by these meters. This when it shakes, instead of bending, it slides. It slides due to the sliding motion. The bending is avoided, and hence the harm that is caused is reduced. It is also prevented from the east to west by the cables, so they can absorb all the tensions. Here you can see the second picture is there, where some spaces are given um, in one slab, between two slabs. This is to also to prevent the damage when the earthquake comes. Next we will move the other methods for to prevent the earthquake damage are creating effective building codes. Now, in India, NBC 2017 has been set up in order to give the guidelines for making the building. As per the NPC, proper exit must be provided in every building so as to permit the safe escape in case of fire and earthquake. The second is the main staircase and the fire escape staircase must be continuous from the ground floor to the terrace floor. And the residential buildings, types of the residential buildings can be lodging or rooming. Uh, Second is one or two family private dwellings, dormitories, apartments, and hotels can be constructed. And next, we can see these are the examples where the staircases are made as per to the norms of the NBC. The staircases are running from top to the bottom. Here you can see the exit. Exit door is there in case of fire. This door can be used, and people can exit and save the life. This is the top view of a staircase, which has been from the terrace to the ground floor. The third is the third method that we can use is training response personnel and citizens. Before the event has occurred, people should be trained to use the fire extinguishers. National disaster response forces are being formed, and the people are trained to overcome and face the situation so that the harm can be reduced. Next is preparation of shelters and backup facilities. Shelter facilities can be constructed as per to the economy of the country. If the country economy is very good, then they can construct the dormitories where the large number of peoples can be accommodated. And if the economy of the country is less, then they can have this hut shaped shelters also, so that the people's life can be saved, because at this particular time only saving of the life is more important. Next, this is the phase 3, that is the response phase of the disaster management cycle. Now, these two phases we have cleared. First was the mitigation method, and the second was the preparation method. These two phases we have cleared, and these are the before the event method. Now, suppose an event has occurred. Now, when the event has occurred or a disaster has occurred, then the response phase comes into picture. And what are the things that you can do in response phase are: first is emergency equipment usage, like ambulance, fire brigades, and other necessary equipments that are necessary for saving the life should be utilized at the earliest. Second is the communication. This is very important. Minute to minute information of the disaster and the people should be communicated to the different sects of the government, like police, hospitals, government agencies. All these things should be communicated. Otherwise, the proper equipment facilities cannot be uh, made to reach. Third is the coordination of different agencies. Different agencies like state agencies, central government agencies, NGOs, all should be coordinated in a very proper manner so that they can help the people who are victim. And saving lives is one of the very important. The priority should be given to the saving of the life. All the methods should be implemented and directed so as the lives of the people can be saved at the earliest. Next is the recovery phase. Under the recovery phase, after the third phase, the recovery phase comes. In recovery phase, reconstruction of infrastructure takes place. Now infrastructure, depending upon the economy and the particular situation, infrastructure can be made so that the people can be rehabilitated for a certain time. The second comes is the restoring telecommunication. Telecommunications should be restored so that the people can communicate with their relatives and other persons, other government agencies also. So these telecommunications should be restored. The third is improving lives. Once the disaster happens, then definitely the economy of the people goes down. The standard of the people will be down. So in order to back up certain facilities should be provided so that the people life can be improved. Rehabilitation of other necessities like banking services, road constructions, postal communications, all these things should be restored. Water services, electricity services, all things should be restored so that the rehabilitation of the people um, can be made. And after all these the phases have been completed, the next phase that comes is the next process that comes is the risk analysis. We need to analyze what are the risks that have been occurred, what were the defects in our preparation, and so that in the future, if this such an event comes, we can more effectively face this situation. So, a qualitative or quantitative approach to determine the nature and the extent of disaster risk by analyzing potential hazards and evaluating existing conditions of exposure and vulnerability that together could harm the people, property, service, livelihood, and the environment on which they depend. Under risk analysis, following things comes. First is the assessment, means identification of the hazard. What type of hazard was it, right? Then comes the risk management, means the policies that were implemented and the management decisions that were taken, whether they were effective, and what were the defects, or what were the discrepancies in that, so that they can be mended and in future it can be amended. Then comes the risk communication, means exchange of information regarding the risk. Means if a disaster has occurred at one particular place, then this can be communicated to the other countries or the other part of the state, so that if the same disaster occurs there, they can be faced very effectively. For example, corona was there. So a corona event occurred at some particular place, like in China it was occurred. Now it has to be communicated throughout the world so that the people can make the measures to prevent it and fight against the disaster. Coming specifically to introduction to disaster risk reduction in India. In order to reduce the disaster risk, government initiatives have been taken, and following are the initiatives. First, the formation of National Disaster Management Authority. This is the apex body which takes care of all the disasters that are taking place in the India. The NDMA is the apex body responsible for coordinating and monitoring DRR effects across the country. The second is Disaster Management Act 2005. Government of India has formed the Disaster Management Act of 2005 to take the legal actions and the necessary arrangements for the disaster management. This landmark legislation provides a legal framework for the disaster management and establishes institutional mechanism at national, state, and local levels. And third is creating early warning system. Advanced technologies have been used to find out the disaster before it is occurring. For example, advanced satellites have been launched so that the weather can be forecasted. Advanced seismic meters have been constructed so that the earthquake can be detected before it is occurring. Next, the role of community in disaster management. The role of community is very important because all the efforts that the government makes will not be enough to help the people. So community will also have to play a role in order to help the people, and the government efforts can be elevated. The first role that it created is the capacity building, contributing in increasing the capacity level of preparedness. These people, the community in general contribute so that the whatever the aid is provided by the government and the community aid is also is also included in that, then the capacity to help the people also increases. So more number of peoples can be helped with the same can be helped both by the government and the community organization. The next is the next advantage, it has better implementation of mitigating measure as they are aware of their environment. People are very much aware of their localities. So whereas the government is not that much aware of the locality, but people in general are more aware, so they can help the people more properly as compared to the central agencies. The third is risk awareness, easy acceptance of responsibility by the people. The people who are belong to common trade are very well adverse with them, very well can communicate among themselves. So people can easily make the people to understand, community can easily make the people to understand about the risk awareness, risk quality, risk awareness, and this can help to make the people understand properly. Next is participatory planning. They act as the mediator for the external help to reach the victim. Suppose a government aid is coming, a food requirement has been sent by the central government, but it cannot be reached to the common people. For that, the community people can help to to reach the food from the government agencies to the common people. Here, their role is also important. Next, what are the challenges in implementing the DRR programs? The first challenge is limited resources. Inadequate funding and infrastructure often hampers the implementation of comprehensive DRR programs. Limited resources are there because we have the large population and the resources are limited. So it does creates a hindrance. Second is the coordination gap. Ineffective coordination between the various government agencies and stakeholders can hinder the effectiveness of DRR effects. So a proper coordination between different government, state government, district agencies, and the central government should collaborate all together to fight against the disaster. But such things are failed. So this is also a disadvantage, coordination gap. Third is the lack of the awareness. Many communities still lack the necessary awareness and understanding of disaster risk and preparedness measures. This is because of the uneducation of the people to the risk and the and the severity. They are not able to realize it, and that is why it creates more challenge for implementing the DRR programs. And fourth is vulnerable population. Ensuring the inclusion and protection of marginalized groups such as elderly, disabled, and the poor and remains a challenge. Our society consists of elderly peoples also, children also, and all other sects of community. So due to this different sects of community, elderly people are more vulnerable, whereas children are also more vulnerable. But such a distribution of the society is also a challenge in implementing the DRR programs. Next, what are the future outlooks and the recommendations for DRR in India? First is enhance early warning system. In under this, leverage advanced technologies to improve accuracy and reach of early warning system, enabling timely evacuation and preparedness. More is the advanced technology, more we have the advanced devices, the more we can the disaster can be forecasted timely and the preparedness can be done. Second is strengthen community resilience. Empower local communities through comprehensive capacity building, awareness campaigns, and participatory decision making processes. So, community strength should also be increased. Community participation should also be increased so that the help can be increased. Integrate DRR into development. Mainstream DRR principles into development planning and policies will ensure the long-term sustainability of resilient communities. This includes that development of the cities or the rural areas should be done, but whenever this development is done, the DRR method should be taken into account so that these buildings or any infrastructure development that has been done can sustain the disaster. And foster collaborative partnership, strengthening partnership among government, civil society, academia, and international organization will leverage dispersed expertise and resources. If a disaster occurs, a single agency is not capable of handling everything. So help is needed. So help at the local level, help at the state level, help at the international level, all should be collaborated so that the disaster can be overcome. Next is National Disaster Management Authority. This is the apex body. This is the apex body which is governing all the disaster management risk methods in India. Let's see what is this. Activities of the National Disaster Management Authority (NDMA). What are the functions and the responsibilities? It lays down the policies on the disaster management, approve the national plan, approve plans prepared by the ministries and department of the government of India in accordance with the national plan, lay down the guidelines to be followed by the state authorities in drawing up the state plan. Means this body, this central body forms the rules and regulations which should be implemented by the different state agencies and the state governments so that the disaster can be overcome. What are the programs of the NDMA? The first is National Cyclone Risk Management Projects. The second is School Safety Projects. The third is Decision Support System and others. So all these are the programs which are being managed by the NDMA. Next is the activities of NDMA. The activities of the NDMA are: first is prevention, second is mitigation, third is preparedness, fourth is the response, and fifth is the recovery. Means NDMA takes care of all the four phases of the disaster management cycle. All the things have been included: prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Next, what are the and the who is the head of the NDMA? The main aim of the NDMA, its primary purpose is to coordinate the response to natural or man-made disaster and for capacity building in disaster resiliency and crisis response. It is also the apex body to lay down the policies and plans and guidelines for the disaster management to ensure a timely and effective response to disaster. So, main thing is to coordinate the response between different agencies of the country, and secondly, to lay down the policies and plans for disaster management. Who is the head of the NDMA? Now, head of the NDMA in India is the Prime Minister. Prime Minister. It is a statutory body. NDMA is a statutory body created under Disaster Management Act 2005, and the Prime Minister of India is the head of the NDMA. And as per to the present, Shri Narendra Modi is the head of the NDMA. Next is the headquarters of NDMA. NDMA is located at New Delhi. It is a body developed under the Act of National Disaster Management Act 2005. And as NDMA is for the at a country level, similarly state disaster management authorities also been constructed at state levels, and where the head is chief minister of the state is the head of state disaster management authorities. Next, look at what are the works done by the NDMA in the past. On May 2020, super cyclone Amphan hit the east coast of India, West Bengal, and Odisha, and parts of the Bangladesh. Here, the role of NDMA, the forces of NDMA, played a very vital role in saving the lives of the people. On June 2, 2020, cyclone Nisarg on west coast hit the Maharashtra. Here also the role of NDMA was actively seen, and the lots of life were saved. The other examples are the recent on 12th November 23 Uttarakhand tunnel accident took place. On 12th November 2023, a section of Silkira Bend Bakau tunnel planned to connect National Highway 134 in the Uttarkashi district of Uttarakhand caved in while under construction. The collapse occurred at around 5:30 according to Indian Standard Time and trapped 41 workers inside the tunnel. Here, the NDRF team, which is being governed by the NDMA, has taken over the rescue operation for 41 laborers, and they have successfully completed it also. So here we can see the effectiveness of NDMA. Next, we are going to see the role of NGOs in disaster management. This is very important because only the government agencies by themselves will not be sufficient enough to overcome the disaster. Role of NGOs are very important. The first role is the protection. They provide relief to the victims of the disaster. So by providing the food and the other necessary items for livelihood, these are being done by the NGOs. The second measures is the prevention, reducing people's vulnerability through income diversifications and savings. The third is the promotion. Promotion means promoting the people chances and opportunities. People are made aware of the opportunities that are given by the government agencies, so that people can utilize those opportunities. This we can see how the people of NGOs help in overcoming the women empowerment. And fourth is the transformation, redressing the social and economic and political issues of the victims. Means if the people are there who have been socially exploited or economically exploited or politically exploited, they take care of them and give them the help so that they can overcome all those problems. Let's see what are some of the NGOs working in India. The first one is Smile Foundation. It is a Delhi based foundation. This is they bring sustainable change in the lives of children and their families. The second is Help Age India, fighting isolation, poverty, and neglect. They help the old age people. This is also a Delhi based foundation. The next is Care India Welfare. This is also a Delhi based foundation and takes care of people. Next, let us look what are the impacts of development activities. Though the development is very important, but it has some impacts on disaster management. First is the physical factor. Per group of construction done in a particular area, physical factor means if a particular area is there, if there is a large number of construction are there, then if an earthquake comes or a flood comes or any mishappening comes, then people will be more affected, lives of the people will be more affected over there. So proper distribution of the people in a particular land area is very very important. Second is the social factor, type of the people affected, such as children, elderly person, women, etc. For example, we can see that a disease like corona comes. So here, children and elderly people were more affected as compared to the younger generation. So here, this social factor is also very important to be taken into consideration. Third is the economic factor. impact on public property, business, etc. If a large capital is accumulated at a particular place, then any disaster that is occurring at that particular place will affect the economy of the nation as well as of the individual in general. So impact of economic factors should also be taken. Environmental factor, loss of vegetation, trees, pollutions, etc. should also be taken into account. We can see that Delhi as a is a capital city, but lot of pollution is there. So large amount of trees and other methods should be incorporated to reduce the pollution. Next, next we are going to study the role of dam. This is also a part of the development activities. The dam prevents in flood control. First role it plays is the flood control. So you can see over here in this picture, under the normal times, the water dam is constructed across a river. So under the normal times, if the water is flowing over there, it and this is the gate, the water passes to the downstream, and here the other activities can be done. But during the heavy rains, what happens, this gate gets opened up, and the water which is stored at this particular site is not completely allowed. It is allowed only to pass through this gate, so a fixed amount of water can be passed. Thus the quantity of water going to the downstream or to the residential area is controlled, and hence the destruction that will cost will be reduced. The second example, we can see that if the water level is less also, the river is flowing normally, but again the heavy rain comes. If the heavy rain is coming, then one side will be filled more, whereas the other side, to the other side, this gate is helping to pass only a fixed quantity of water from to the downstream, so that the destruction cost will be less. So dam serves as a vital infrastructure for managing flood waters. By regulating the flow of water, they can help mitigate the impact of heavy rainfall, prevent downstream flooding, thus protecting communities and their assets. The other other role of dam is hydropower generation. Hydropower can be generated. This is a very greener source of electricity generation. Here this dam acts as a reservoir. From here the water is made to pass to fall onto the turbine. The path with which the water flows to the goes to the turbine, this is called as the penstock. When the water from a height falls on this turbine rotates, and here is the generator. This generator develops an EMF, and which is electricity, which is then passed to the community, and this this helps the people. So this is the greener source of generating electricity. The third role can be for the economic point of view. It also creates the scope for recreation and tourism. People can go for the picnic spots and other things. Dams often create reservoirs that offer recreational opportunities such as boating, fishing, and camping. These activities can contribute to local economies. And other most important is the irrigation and avoiding of drought. It provides the water throughout the year, so that the people are not dependent on the rainy season, and hence the economy of the farmers are being saved. Next, we can see the disadvantageous side of the development, and here we are going to see the role of urbanization in disaster management. We can see that as the in the urban cities, the more is the concentration of the population, more is the concentration of the infrastructure, and more is the concentration of the capital. So if a certain disaster event occurs, such as earthquake occurs, so more will be the destruction at property, for the property, and as well as for the human lives. So the proper distribution of the economic capitalization and the proper use of land area should be done, so that the destruction can be reduced. The main characteristic of a city is density. Capital assets, population, and functions are focused on limited areas, which make cities vulnerable to urban disaster damages. It is natural that urbanization, which means construction of population and increased land use, worsen urban disaster vulnerability. So rural and urban development should be done hand to hand so that nothing is concentrated at one particular area. So that's it in our video lecture for the disaster management. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.